Hello, everyone. I'm Charlie Tolhurst, and welcome to the Charlie Tolhurst Show for today, the 14th of January. As you can see, comfortable and casual is tonight's theme, as I'm sure you guys know that me and Zach have adopted for tonight's show. Doesn't mean comfortable and casual for news headlines. We've got plenty of news headlines to get you through this evening. I'm joined by lay participants Zach Chambers to round up all the news. Hello, Zach.
Hi, Charlie, mate. Hello.
Well, let's start off the show by talking all about the latest news and the quite horrifying news at London Euston Station. Tonight, it has been reported that a 7-year-old girl has been shot dead in this accident. I mean, I don't know what to say about this. Girl 7 has actually been reported to have been shot and suffered life-threatening injuries. We don't know whether this person remains dead. It is a horrible event, guys. Honestly, she's suffered life-threatening. She could be dead. We don't even know what is happening right now. It's a serious development. 5 other people have been reported injured. It reported at around 1:30 this afternoon at the St. Eulis Church in Euston. The Met Police said another girl aged 12 and 4 women aged 21, 41, 48 and 54 were also injured. The 48-year-old may have life-changing injuries. The 21-year-old's injuries were not known. The 12-year-old girl was also being treated for a minor leg injury. This was the scenes earlier on as forensic police officers were detecting what was happening at the crime. This actually happened outside the Prince Arthur pub, just outside Euston train station. Air ambulances there have been called. Zach, this event is quite huge. And Sadiq Khan today, the Mayor of London, issuing a little quote there saying, "I'm in close contact with Met Police, determine what happened." What do you make to his view of events in London today, particularly on what he said about the incident?
I mean, if it ain't shooting, stabbings, it's bloody shootings, isn't it? I mean, look at it. It's happening broad daylight as well, from what I see. I mean, it was happening whilst a funeral was taking place, which just shows they've got no bounds for whatever their motivation is. It's just horrible. Just to add it on to the fact that the funeral was taking place, is to be, come on. It's just, how low can you get whilst you're doing this? I mean, there's a respectful funeral, you're doing your lost ones, and then someone else has to pile onto the misery and then shoot people as well. There was a 7-year-old, there was a 12-year-old girl, it was a 120, and then there was 4 women, 21, 48, 48, 54. The 48 may have life-chasing injuries, 21-year-old condition not yet known. The other ones were not in life-threatening conditioning. 12-year-old has actually got a minor leg injury, but the 7-year-old's got serious life-threatening injuries, from what I'm reading as well. And you can see all the forensics that have had to do as well to figure out what's happened. All the ambulance service as well. There's been no arrests yet, but I imagine there would be in time. But I mean, come on. It's just sad, isn't it, that someone is really going around and, shooting people whilst they're in the middle of a bloody funeral. I mean, I don't understand how pathetic people can have to, but the shooter has to be to just drop this. This is just low. It is incredibly low, especially during a funeral and all that sort of thing as well. I mean, it's awful scene. It's a miserable scene. We don't obviously know what the motive was for it, but yeah, it's a terrible incident that it shouldn't even be taking place. That's what the thing is. It shouldn't even be taking place. And yeah, I just feel sorry for everyone that got injured, and for those families and friends that have obviously think about their loved ones who are now in a serious condition, Charlie. Some of them are in a serious condition. We don't know what the update will be on them, whether they're going to come out alive or not is another thing. I just hope to God they do, at least. That's the main thing.
Oh, this is a horrendous event. What can I absolutely say with this? It's just terrible. Seeing people being shot like this. Come on. We had one, what was it, a couple of months ago, of an 87-year-old man being stabbed. And then we had another 9-year-old girl being shot. That's just horrendous. This continues the last few months of horrifying and violent crime in London on a new level for a long time. I've never seen this for a long time in my life, that crime in this country is out of control. There is serious problems in this country with the numbers of people being shot this year. We need to stop this, especially in London. It is now at the highest level for a long time. I don't know what to say about that. And I'm sure there'll be plenty of discussions next week in Parliament about crime in general. So that's the crime issue done now. I'm going to move on and talk all about the UK's week in Parliament, which has seen Andrew Bridgen, the very famous Conservative MP, given the Tory whip suspended for allegedly, apparently using a tweet over the COVID-19 vaccine, saying that I think he was comparing it to the greatest threats to the Holocaust or something. Obviously, the Holocaust was the time when Jewish Adolf Hitler had a campaign against Jews that the Nazi Party launched during the late 30s, early 40s. And this has been obviously MPs. Matt Hancock in the Commons on Wednesday asked Rishi Sunak a question during PMQs, which the Prime Minister condemned Mr. Bridgen's actions. But I mean, it's an interesting development. I have been quite vocal on my social media. I'm not going to say it on my show tonight because I've got to try and remain impartial. But this is something that was quite spouted up over the news over the last couple of days. Zach, what did you make to Andrew Bridgen's comment on the vaccine? And do you think that this could be a huge moment for the Conservative Party, particularly losing him?
I don't, to be fair, I don't think it's like a huge moment for him, losing. It's not a huge moment for the Conservative Party losing him, because at the end of the day, I think that will be viewed as a good move. I know some people may not agree with that suggestion. I know you probably won't agree with that, Charlie, but I think at the end of the day, the move was right. I mean, why does the Holocaust have to be brought into this? I don't get it. Why? What? There's no meaningful comparison between taking a COVID-19 vaccine and then, then comparing it to, say, the Jews killing all Jews, the Germans killing the Jews and everything like that in the 1940s. What comparison is there made? This is not like, they're not putting gas in COVID-19, for heaven's sake. They're putting, whatever you want to call it, antibodies, generics, and all that sort of thing that at least give you your body protection. It doesn't change your DNA or anything like that, or some stupid conspiracy thought of it. A cardiologist told, he said that an unnamed cardiologist told him it was the biggest crime since the Holocaust. I mean, come on. That is a pathetic comparison. What's this cardiologist? I don't know, just a guy in the street, some silly conspiracy theories that post on TikTok or whatever. It's not. If they can't even name themselves, then shame the cardiologist or so-called cardiologist who thought of that. The thing is about the Holocaust is that it was a case of Germans gassing or killing Jews in whatever way, or other people that was not deemed to be their type. The vaccine program is designed to protect us and give us our body a little bit more protection against severe viruses. Where is the comparison with that? Why do Jews need to be reminded of the Holocaust any more than when the COVID vaccine? It's a bizarre, stupid comparison, and I'm seeing all they've removed his free speech and all that sort of thing. Well, fine, yeah, he's free to say that, but then it can't be without consequences, because it's an outrageous statement that you shouldn't even be saying that sort of thing. It's all good saying, free speech and all that sort of thing, but people could call for death of somebody, and then they'll complain, well, it's free speech and all that stuff. Just stop. Like, I don't know. You're it's just being offensive if you're start invoking the Holocaust and everything, because it's nothing to do with it. And two, he's spreading a lot of misinformation as well. No wonder why he's been suspended because he's been spreading misinformation about COVID vaccines for a long time. I mean, it's funny because he did this video, I think, the other day after he got suspension, and the Reclaim Party, which is led by Lawrence Fox, seemed to have like posted it on his behalf, which was peculiar. Because if he ever wants a Conservative whip back, then that's one way. I don't think that's one way of getting it back. We're getting the Reclaim card to do content on behalf of you. But will we get a Reclaim MP? I mean, no one's going to take sympathy if it's Andrew Bridgen, for heaven's sake. I mean, you think about it, Lawrence Fox is the one that leads it. He's an actor, so you can tell how serious the party is already. So not in many ways. And then adding Andrew Bridgen on top of it, it just looks like it just looks so bad. Andrew Bridgen's going to get nowhere into the Conservative Party again. And I was just reading about a Conservative councillor actually being suspended.
Yep, here we go.
For expressing support for Andrew
Alex
Bridgen.
Stevenson, a councillor of West Derby or Derbyshire County Council, claimed the remarks had been misinterpreted. Mr. Bridgen, but local Tory bosses said that his views were at odds with the party. Mr. Bridgen, who previously welcomed the development of the COVID vaccines, had recently begun to make baseless claims, including that damage caused by the vaccines was being covered up. That was according to what Mr. Bridgen said the other day.
It's not, though. The thing is, like, people could say, "Oh, yeah, it's been claimed, it's covered up and everything like that." No, I mean, they've been very open. Like, we've seen providers being very open when it comes to blood clots, for example. They've been very open about that. It's based on statistics, analyses, and facts. And then you get these. It's totally different to the conspiracy theories and unscientific evidence that they've been saying, "Oh, it caused genetic damage and all that sort of thing like that," and then being spread around like some sort of fact when it's not. It's just misinformation. And the idea that we should get the vaccine stopped and everything like that because based on all this misinformation and unscientific claims, it's just no way. People should not have a right to go around spreading like misinformation on COVID vaccines that just have no basis in reality, and it's dangerous. It's totally dangerous because you get all the conspiracy theories start along, and it just causes harm to others as well who really do want to take a life-saving vaccine. But yeah, he deserves to be suspended, Andrew Bridgen. I'm sorry, but he did. And free speech or not, it doesn't mean you're free of consequences for what you'll say. Because if you say something that you know is going to offend people and is going to upset people and then going to get yourself into trouble, then what then you shouldn't have a right to be an MP. And Andrew Bridgen has no right to be an MP at all, in my view.
Coming up now, guys, will be a couple of videos that will be played on my show regarding Andrew Bridgen's comments about the vaccine. This was the first one from the Daily Mail with the news headline coming through right now.
It's hard to believe, ladies and gentlemen, that 100 years ago, we ran a quarter of the globe from Westminster. Mr. Speaker, I will bring my remarks to a conclusion, but it is clear to me, and it will be clear to the public, that to the fag end of your tenure in that chair, you are defending the indefensible and your very close relationship with the honourable member in question.
As this one consultant's cardiologist said, it's the biggest crime against humanity since the Holocaust. And Simon Hart then said exactly what afterwards, announcing that he'll be pending formal investigation. Now it's time for the moment you've all been waiting for. What happened in PMQs after Matt Hancock addressed MPs and asked this question to Prime Minister Rishi Sunak. Have a listen to this.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Does the Prime Minister agree with me that the disgusting anti-Semitic, anti-vax conspiracy theories that have been promulgated online this morning are not only deeply offensive, but anti-scientific and have no place in this House or in our wider society?
Well, can I join with my honourable friend in completely condemning those types of comments that we saw this morning in the strongest possible terms. Obviously, it is utterly unacceptable to make linkages and use language like that, and I'm determined that the scourge of anti-Semitism is eradicated. It has absolutely no place in our society, and I know that the previous few years have been challenging for the Jewish community, and I never want them to experience anything like that ever again.
Thank you there to Rishi Sunak there for that announcement on regards to the comments made by Andrew Bridgen, the Conservative MP there for North West Leicestershire, who has had the Tory whip suspended. I can tell you now, there has been complete denial with Conservative Party MPs this week, who have literally been really much suffering a lot of turmoil with Andrew Bridgen and a couple of MPs that have had whips removed. Moving on now to a continuation of Parliament now and the week in politics here in the UK, I'm going to talk all about something that has been in UK debates this week, and that is the ambulance waiting times. A&E waiting times have soared this week in parts of the UK, particularly in Scotland. We're seeing waits of up to 36 hours. Rishi Sunak said during PMQs that he apparently went private, used private healthcare during that debate. Obviously, that was in response to a question about ambulance waiting times, and of course strikes as well that have been inflicting so much pain on commuters across the country. But the ambulance waiting times is a big issue. It's in Scotland at the moment. Hasma Youssef, the Scottish Health Secretary or the Health Minister over there, is facing calls to resign. We're seeing Stephen Barclay come under a lot of pressure for what's happening in the health service right now. Zach, what is your take on this? Do you think that, particularly say in Scotland and in England, that their health secretaries need to do more to tackle this backlog?
Yeah, I mean, it's just the times are ridiculous, to be fair. They're waiting longer than ever, and it's causing havoc, really. I mean, half of people, mate, at EJ&E's had to wait longer than 4 hours for the first time, like on record. That's a badge of shame, quite frankly. If you think about it, I mean, look, 11. So the response time in December in England defines call for people life-threatening injuries or illnesses with 10 minutes 57. That's longest on record. It sounds short, but the standard time would be 7 minutes. So it's like nearly 4 minutes shorter, longer. I mean, and that's a big difference between someone surviving and someone dying. It's not good. Average wait for category 2, an hour and a half. First time. Those targets for those calls are 18 minutes. So that's even more of a disgrace as well. 18 minutes, and it's like an hour and a half normally just to get a category 2 ambulance. It's just, it shows that, I mean, I wouldn't revoke the strikes in saying this, but it may not necessarily be the strikes, because the problems have been continuing since you know, even after COVID, like when the society opened up. I mean, yeah, there's obviously issues with COVID and all that sort of thing, but like we've not seen like something like this in so long. I mean, like an hour and a half for like category 2, and it's normally 18 minutes should be. It's dire, pretty dire. I mean, 50% of those not seen within 4 hours, mate, visiting in A&E. That's awful. But the NHS waiting list, I suppose the only little bit of good news out of this is the NHS waiting list got down a little bit. So 7.21 last time. It's now 7.19. That's still second highest on record. So it's not really that brilliant. The proportion of cancer patients, which saw especially from 2 week, grew from 77 to 78.8. So there's some sign of improvement there as well. But yeah, I mean, 50.4 in NHS England, not seen within 4 hours. This is 4.9% worse in November, 19% worse than the equivalent month in 2019. So yeah, waiting times increased by 20%. You know, it's a dire service, and it just shows you how serious it is. I mean, like, the measures are now been taking place to put like people in care homes if there's some beds available, rather than put them on
That's
hospital.
unbelievable.
I mean, yeah, it shouldn't need to get to like that. If the health service wasn't so busy and such in a mess, it wouldn't have got to go like that. But I suppose as a short-term temporary measure, I think that's probably the right decision. I've been a bit torn and thinking like that, but if there's a lot of unused beds in, like, you know, the care homes, all that sort of thing, then maybe it is right. Then they start using those unused beds, so that they can free up space in the NHS hospitals. But like I said, it shouldn't be getting towards this. It should not be like this. We should be having, you know, the NHS target time should all be met and all that sort of thing. So it's right as a short-term measure, but long-term, I hope it never has to come to that ever again, to be fair, because it's not a good measure to come to.
It's unbelievable what's happening in the health service right now, and particularly in Scotland, where the health secretary there, I don't think is even considering, not even just sort of considering anything. The Scottish Parliament have been complete. I've condemned the SNP this week about the weights, and this is putting pressure on the BSM Sturgeon's election campaign, Sturgeon's leadership now in Scotland, who, by the way, are called for mask mandates to return in Scotland this week. So clearly the SNP are in a power grab mode at the moment. But yeah, it's quite interesting. There is a lot of problems in Scotland this week with the
everywhere.
With a lot of stuff with independent with politics aside. But I think that as I said, this is probably the worst in Scotland and in England as well. We've got to address this. Very serious allegations need to be made to stop these strikes, and not just these strikes, but these waiting lists being so long. That is the problem that we don't want to happen. Moving on now to the news from the war in Ukraine, the Russian invasion of Ukraine. Now, we are heading towards a grim milestone for the war in Ukraine. We're heading up now to 11 months since Vladimir Putin of Russia launched his special military operation in Ukraine to so-called protect the Donbass region, which is the whole country that has now been invaded. Now, some breaking news over the last few hours has emerged that the UK will be sending Challenger 2 tanks to Ukraine. There's going to be a new shipment of tanks. Yes, a new shipment of tanks, a new supply of tanks are going to be going over to Ukraine. Russia have accused the UK of escalating the conflict further by arming Ukraine with weapons. We know that Russia are using that as a pretext to a potential false flag operation somewhere in Ukraine as well. This isn't an escalation of the conflict for Ukraine. This will help them destroy Russian positions across the country. Now, we saw the town of Solidar claimed by Russians to have been taken over. Well, there has been very little proof of that happening today because fighting has been raging on there for quite a long time over the last few days and weeks. Russian artillery fire, Ukrainian strongholds still remaining there. And the Russians have claimed that Ukrainians have surrendered there. We actually do not know what has happened yet. So we're going to get that up for you right now. Zach, what is your assessment of the current situations in Ukraine and regarding the continuation of Russian attacks in the country?
I mean, if you think about it, today has been a pretty rough day for Ukraine. And I've been, you know, to be fair, Charlie, I've been following this quite closely, what's happened today and everything like that. So we had this, there has been a strike in Dnipro today, 60 injured, a residential building in Dnipro, 12 on children, 5 killed as well. It's just because of Russian bombardment in that city with their drones and missiles. They use missiles today, I should point out as well. They use missiles, but yeah, it's and they use some rather vicious missiles did try to get air defense in, but it didn't necessarily work. But 60 of them injured in that building attack. You may have seen the image of it. It's a building proper set on fire and everything as well.
We do have an. Are we going to show? Just get the picture now of this Russian airstrike in Dnipro. I can get the picture up here. I don't know if it was up. Oh, we do have a picture. It has come through. There is an article here of the. It looks like a block of flats.
It is.
Here it is. This is in Dnipro, guys. Today. I mean, look at this. Devastating.
Yeah. I mean, it was a pretty bad sight. I mean, you look at the building; it's absolutely demolished. The surroundings are completely demolished. It looks like somebody's just been directly hit about it, and it's been set on fire as well. But the thing about it is, there's so many people inside that as well, which is a war crime because there's people inside that, just general normal civilians. No, there's no like soldiers like sat in there or anything like that, or a key infrastructure. It's just innocent civilians, and they're all because the building obviously is so big and everything like that. And there's people on the lower floor that is probably trapped inside all that debris and building collapse that have all come down and everything. So it was pretty nasty, horrible, and war crimey sight that the Russians managed to do today. Is a really bad sight as well. So I mean, yeah, it obviously needs to generate, more. It just proves that Ukraine needs more weapons. I mean, they're going to get the Challenger 2 soon. It's a Britain-made one. It's made in, armies in UK and Oman as well. It's got a 26.1 litre engine, 1,200 horsepower as well. So it's pretty fast as well. So, and I suspect in many ways it's pretty efficient and pretty special in terms of the attack ability. It costs £4 million a unit from what I'm reading. I've got a fuel capacity of nearly 1,600 litres, so there's a lot of fuel on it. It's designed very well to get fuel, and obviously for long journeys and everything like that, and the durability. It's been used in Bosnia Herzegovina, British Army, from what I've read as well, and it's used in direct fire zones as well. So it's a very good tank, as well. And it's been used by various of NATO forces, which is the key to being able to attack other targets that are destroy it as well. Now I believe from what I've read as well, the Germans are going to try and as long as they stop their political hassling. You may have seen the German defense minister is going to resign because of conflict, internal conflicts and everything within Germany's own government. But it looks like they're going to give they may be eventually, although it's on hold for now potentially, they may be giving a what they call a Leo tank as well, Leopard 2 tanks from Poland and Finland as well. It looks like they're going to give Leopard 2 tanks as well to Ukraine. So one set of tanks in the UK, one set of tanks in the other as well. But obviously this is not enough to destroy what's been happening in Dnipro today and everything like that as well. We had air raids everywhere, power outrage as well. Central Kyiv has been hit as well. So yeah, it's been another tough day for Ukraine. Solidar, as you said, Charlie, as well, that the battle is still on there. I mean, Russians are saying they've won it back. I mean, I treat whatever Russia says with a load of skepticism, quite frankly, because they're well known for skeptic information and misinformation. But yeah, the fight has gone on there. If Russia gets Solidar, is a key victory for them, because then they can block the tanks, block all the key targets that around them, and then we take other areas as well. So it's a crucial area for Russia to get if possible. But I think it's still contested in many ways as well, from what I'm reading.
Yeah, the bloodiest fighting of the war so far in that area. All I can say is the Ukrainians and the Russians are fighting it out in that part of the country to basically win that part of the country. It's a very important part for Ukraine, and Russia seem to be throwing everything at the kitchen sink to try and get Solidar and Bakhmut, and try and turn them places into ruins. Moving on now to the sport briefing. Now, talking about all things sport, we have had the first round of the FIA or ABB Formula E Championship, which has now concluded. I did watch the race earlier. I can confirm Robin Frimes unfortunately did suffer quite a heavy crash earlier on in the race. He has apparently been taken to hospital, I believe, for precautionary checks. But yes, Jake Dennis winning the first race of the new Gen 3 era of Formula E cars. Jake Dennis taking the win in Mexico City after a quite interesting and frantic race for everyone. We do have the official standings for you here, guys, which we will now get up for you, courtesy of ABB Formula E. Jake Dennis winning for Avalanche Andretti. Second went the way of Pascal Wehrlein in the Tag Heuer Porsche. A very good result for Pascal Wehrlein, winner of the event last year, of course. Lucas Di Grassi finishing third for Mahindra. Andre Lotterer was fourth for Avalanche Andretti in the second of the two cars there. Jake Hughes, a very impressive fifth on his Formula E debut for McLaren. Sebastian Buemi, sixth for Envision. A decent result for Buemi, getting himself back into the points again, which is good to see. Da Costa was seventh for Tag Heuer Porsche. Eighth went the way of Jaguar's Mitch Evans. Jaguar not having a particularly strong weekend as well, with Sam Bird retiring. Nick Cassidy finishing in ninth, and 10th going the way of last year's champion Stoffel Van Dorn. Not exactly DS Penske's finest outing this weekend. Zach, what did you make of the race today?
Yeah, I thought the race was pretty decent. For the first Gen 3 car, I'm just going through what I saw over the weekend and yesterday, especially with practice. The field is tight. It is tight. I mean, on pure performance alone, the top 8, I think at 1.3 practice 2, was separated by only 10th of a second. And that proves that, although it's only just a starting block for these cars, it proves that everything at the moment seems to be really tight and, really close. That's a good sign as well. Lucas Di Grassi, I think it was the one that got pole position, winning the duel against I think it was Jake. Was it Jake? I think it was Jake Dennis. Was it? In qualifying because Dennis made key errors, but yeah, Dennis managed to get his back one way back as well. Once he got ahead of Lucas Di Grassi in the opening laps, he was pretty much flying off the distance. It was, I believe, 3 safety cars overall in that race as well.
Yeah, that was a lot.
That was a lot because there was one on the first lap, if I remember rightly, because of the accident with Robin Frimes. I mean, like Frimes' accident wasn't that big, but he must have I don't know what the steering wheels were like or anything, but obviously he's injured himself, so that makes me kind of worry about the car, Charlie, about how safe it is already. I mean, whether he had something on his wheel or something like that and it twisted and hurt his other arm or something like that. But yeah, it's not a good sign that it only took a lap for someone to get injured in that car. That's just not breaking his wrist, broke his wrist as well. So yeah, he must have twisted it whilst on the wheel, because they're obviously, it's a tight, cars are sort of narrower this season, and they're sort of not letting us room to move your hands. So he must have twisted it rather badly for it to be injured or something like that, because it wasn't even a big incident. It's just that he took one impact and then the other, but it wasn't that big as well. But yeah, hopefully, sorry about that, Robin Frimes is okay. Yeah, Norman Attles, the other one, I think got affected as well in that one. Sam Bird broke down as well. It looked like he had a battery hydraulic issue. Mortara did a silly spin at turn 1 into the rear of the ball, and I don't know what happened to Rennie Rast at the end. He retired. as well. But yeah, Jake Dennis got that pass from Degrassi, and then Degrassi sort of fell back behind Werland as well. Pascal Werland drove through the field brilliantly, by the way, to get second position ahead of Lucas Degrassi. But yeah, Degrassi on the podium. I suppose he'll be pleased in some way because, he's made the podium. Andrew Lotta fourth, pretty good result for him. Then you got Jake who's in fifth and Buemi sixth as well. DeCosta seventh. Evans was eighth. Cassidy was ninth. Van Dorn was the last one. The points finished at 10th as well. And obviously been a lot of change and everything like that as well. But like it's a tight field. It was a tight field in qualifying. It's a bit more spread out in the race. Hopefully not like that all the time, but yeah, it was pretty much a dominant drive by Dennis at the end of the day as well to get that victory as well. And now I believe then we are in the next race.
It'll be, I think yes, Diriyah, 27th of January and 28th for double header in Diriyah. So we'll keep you updated with Formula E regarding the next set of races. Diriyah will be the next set of races for Formula E. It's a double header, by the way, as well. So I believe Friday and Saturday, or Saturday, Sunday, but it'll be the 27th, 28th. We'll be racing in Diriyah for the Diriyah E Prix, which is there as well. I'm now going to go through this weekend's football action. I know a lot of people certainly have been wanting to hear football results over the last few days. We did have the Manchester derby on today. And in fact, we can go over the results now. And I can start off with Manchester United picking up a crucial win against Manchester City. 2-1. Manchester United beating Man City. Brighton beating Liverpool 3-0. A huge result for Brighton. Southampton beating Everton. Frank Lampard's reign could be under question. Nottingham Forest 2, Leicester City 0. Wolverhampton Wanderers 1, West Ham United 0. And finally, Brentford 2, AFC Bournemouth 0. Some surprises today in the Premier League. Zach, what did you make of the fixtures?
So I watched the Manchester derby earlier as well. It was close, I would say, in the first half. I mean, I think United just had a little bit of an edge. And then the second half obviously came along. City was the better side at the start. Obviously, that Jack Grealish goal was pretty good, to be fair, mate. It was good assist as well. And then we had the 2 goals from Manchester United. Wow. I mean, like, Fernandes with a decent goal. That was onside, by the way, I should point out. Because I saw, I don't know, there's a bit of interpretation saying was Rashford playing or Rashford was offside, so, he shouldn't have got the goal. But I think what it was Rashford did something really clever because he actually didn't touch the ball and didn't interfere with the play with Bruno Fernandes and the defenders of Man City as well. So it was onside because Rashford didn't interfere play. And then Rashford himself scored the crucial goal in the 82nd minute. He's been brilliant. He was absolutely brilliant, Rashford, throughout that match. Good result, crucial result. And the consequence of that means is that United are now like 1 point behind Manchester City in the table, which is pretty extraordinary because last time I think they played this fixture, Charlie, I think it was Man United lost, I think it was at 6-2 or something like that. I can't remember.
Yeah,
they
a huge loss.
Significant margin. So the fact they managed to vice versa the results this time round crucial because if you look at the table, United are only 1 point now behind Man City in the overall table with 18 games. Both of them played 18 games. Man United now have won their last 5. Man City have only won 2 of their last 5. One was a draw, and then got 2 losses. But yeah, that was a crucial win for Manchester United. Major victory. The other matches, I'm not Leicester. I honestly, who lost. Yeah, they're in trouble. I think Leicester. In my team were in trouble. Like you got to think about it. We're not playing good enough. We were on form before the break. Now we're sort of coming off of it. change would have to be made because seriously, it's getting towards sacking territory. Unfortunately, I was going to say give Brendan Rodgers the benefit of the doubt, and then because he got a little bit of turn of fortune. But after today's result, I mean, if I look at the table, 15th on 17 points. The relegation zone is 15 points. Like in 18th is 15 points. So yeah, it's not good as well. And speaking of those in the relegation zone as well. I mean, West Ham now in it with that 1-0 loss against Wolves. I've seen comments saying that Moyes should be sacked tonight. Whether that's actually happening or not, I do not know. As well, I always like to keep checking as well, but I don't think there's been any sackings yet. I could all be wrong. No, it doesn't look like any manager's been sacked yet. As well. So it may be that they might sack them tonight, but we might find out tomorrow. Who knows? It works like that sometimes as well. What was the other result? Everton lost Southampton. Yeah, I mean, Lampard is in big trouble again, I think, as well. Southampton has a better result. That's a little bit of turn up in the form because Southampton actually beat Man City midweek in the Carabao Cup. That was a big result, I have to say, as well. But I think the biggest shocker one was Brighton winning 3-0 against Liverpool. I mean, where's Liverpool going recently? They're in turmoil. They're doing just as badly as Chelsea are in most instances as well. But 3-0 Brighton, I mean, fair enough. Brighton have, they've lost Graham Potter, but they've still not lost their amazing football. I mean, it was a stunning result in many instances as well. And you got 2 goals from Sonny Marsh, and then you got a goal from Welbeck as well. Yeah, I mean, Brighton should be really happy, but it's affected the standings quite a lot because, like I said, Arsenal could go 80 points ahead tomorrow, ahead of Man City. And, as I said, Man United are 1 point behind Man City now. Newcastle's could, still remain in the top 4 tomorrow if Tottenham lose against Arsenal, because it's North London tomorrow, obviously, as well. But yeah, that bottom 4 is the bottom 3 is so tight. I mean, West Ham now in it, 15, 15, 15. That's the bottom 3, literally. That is the bottom 3, all on 15 points. So results over the next few weeks are going to really determine what happens and all that sort of thing as well. I mean, it's tight. Like 14th to 20th is 17 to 15 points, a 2-point difference. It's so close that the running is going to be amazing. The running is going to be so amazing on this because they're giving the points difference. But yeah, tomorrow is going to be Chelsea, Palace, Fulham, Newcastle, and the North London as well. And I believe midweek next week is Man City and Spurs and Crystal Palace, Man United. So yeah, more points possible. And top 2 could well be changing. If Man United win midweek and Man City don't. So yeah, crucial result fixtures ahead, I think, as well.
Plenty of fixtures. All we can say is the Premier League returns. I'm not even sure he's back tomorrow. We do have some matches tomorrow. Struggling Chelsea take on Crystal Palace. Graham Potter is under significant pressure following 2 losses in a row, I believe. 2 or 3 losses in a row. They've lost loads of matches, Chelsea, at the moment. Yeah. As we speak. Newcastle take on Fulham tomorrow, and Tottenham and Arsenal, the North London derby, 4:30 tomorrow. Big kickoff in that match there for Tottenham and Newcastle. Moving on now to Charlie's Good News. We are discussing The Apprentice Week 2 for my Good News segment. This is going to be on for the majority, probably until at least March now, because there is a lot of episodes of The Apprentice. Now, we had 2 candidates being fired. Actually, no, 1 candidate got fired. 1 chose to leave the process. Now, unfortunately, if your name was Kevin, you were fired on the last week's task. Remember, guys, the teams actually competed in a Bayo Buns task. They had to make Bayo Buns for Lord Sugar, and it was the boys' team lost the last task. Yeah. The first loss for the boys. The girls won, even though they got their maths equation wrong. They got enough Bayo Buns to sell, adding toppings onto them, charging a higher price, about £10, I think, for what I heard as well for them. making
Yeah.
lots of profit for the girls team. The boys kind of not really engaging that much of the public, not many sales going on, and the girls team, Zach, came out on top.
Yeah, and what I saw from that episode as well, and I watched most of it, was that the boys were, you know, in that task were like underselling, like they're underpricing their products with their buns. Really, I mean, they made it look number one, they made it look really ugly. That's for starters. And then number two, the other thing that I think that what caused them to fail was that they were as you said, they're underselling their corporate buns. They, you know, the boys dropped it from £8 to £3.80.
Was it £4 or something like that? Yeah.
Oh yeah, so for £3.80. That's they've dropped it too much. I mean, like the girls in their times dropped their buns from £9 to £5. So yeah, I mean, although like the client was disappointed with the girls one, they dropped it to more lower price. I mean, like a price that was lower but still higher than the boys. And at the end of the day, you know, because the boys ones dropped their prices so much, and you know they didn't like the product as well, they got less sales out of it because they've dropped the price so much, and they got less profits. I mean, the profits, I think, if I remember, for the boys was something like nearly 59535.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, they lost it by quite a margin.
So the girls won, but then you had that very shocking moment where Shannon decided to sort of announce to everybody that she wasn't having it anymore, and she sort of bye out of the process. See you later. It was a weird one, I have to say, as well. I mean, like, why did she even leave? I don't understand. Why did she even? What was necessary? I don't understand that people that come into this process and quit halfway through it without getting fired. Why bother coming? Why bother? You know, even applying for the apprentice to show it and then taking part of it, and then decided saying, you know, 2 weeks later, 2 tasks later, bye. I'm not bothered. Really?
Yeah.
Why? Just, you know, I don't get it. But yeah, the boys laughed yesterday. Bradley, you know, project leader, didn't really do much as well. Avie made mistakes in the kitchen.
It was rolling out the dough, wasn't it? I heard about that.
It was terrible. Honestly, they were very bad at it. You could tell they're not chefs at all, but the way they did it. But Bradley, so it was Kevin, that, you know, was the end of the day was the one that was the key behind selling to the public, and Lord Sugar decided he was out as well. So Kevin was fired. Shannon's gone. I should also point out, you may see the episode, Talia, that Tim Campbell's now there for most of the series as well, rather than just than Claude, who appears to be going off of, obviously had some medical issues whilst filming the series. So obviously he only appeared in the first episode, then sort of, I think he's appearing later in the series.
Yeah, he might be back for the interviews, grilling candidates with their CV.
Yeah, he's probably back for the interviews, but yeah, 16 left. In that one, I think, and I'm just trying to check, but next week as well, because I can't
cartoons next week. I can confirm they are making cartoons.
Yeah, they have. This is interesting as well. I'm very interested to see how this goes as well. So next week they are indeed making. I think they are making cartoons.
Yeah.
As well. So yeah, they're to Regan Street Cinema. A new preschool cartoon out to 2 to 4 year old people, really, to be fair, as well. So that would be really important as well, in terms of making our cartoons and interesting, because obviously you're aiming it towards the children, you know. It's preschool cartoons, I know, big in the industry at the moment. And the spoilers I'm reading, I'm not going to read, obviously, they don't obviously spoil the episode, but there's a little description here as well. But it looks, it's interesting because it looks like none of the team are going to master this off the heart. But yeah, cartoons are pretty important for the younger generation, because we obviously, you know, a lot of young people get into between 2 and 4 these days. So it's a key market to get children engaged and buying all the products as well. So yeah, that'll be next week, and I look forward to watching that.
Yeah, be back on next Thursday, about around 9 o'clock. Keep you updated as we go in. Now, it is time to review the papers now. I am going to be doing a quick little flick through, and then we'll be doing the review of the papers. We'll get them right up for you now. There are plenty of papers being released for Sunday, so let's go through them. I'll read them out whilst we're here quickly. So, half of NHS doctors in a mental health crisis. That was the headline of Sunday People. Fears for desperate frontline medics. The Sunday Telegraph goes with the Labour Party, the Keir Starmer saying, "I will slash the nonsense bureaucracy in the NHS." The Observer goes with cabinet split over NHS pay, piles the pressure on the Prime Minister, Rishi Sunak. The Independent goes with UK hits Tehran with sanctions after execution of British uranium. More on that in a minute. Boris Johnson for Prime Minister plot splits from warring Tories. Sunday Mail goes Tories £2 million jackpot. That was over the Scott Secretary's gym firm handed a massive COVID loan. Opposition politicians' fury outdeal the taxpayer over money. Sunday Express goes with sex assault June riot at a migrant centre. The Sunday People goes for Joey Essex, who I believe is competing in Dancing on Ice in 2023 this year. So we're very interested to see how he gets on. Zach, what do you make to the papers?
Yeah, let's go through it then. So that's obviously the Sunday People. So obviously half of NHS doctors in mental health crisis. Yes. So that's more figures saying that, obviously the crisis in NHS is sort of affecting, the actual health of people that actually work in the NHS as well. Fears for desperate frontline medics. I mean, yeah, it's not surprised. These people have worked the backbone. They've seen what they've seen. And they're obviously, unfortunately, they're suffering through it. And it's not surprising given the fact that, working their hearts out, it's stressful, it's getting to them, and it's going to affect them personally as well, because if they're not at the right health as well, then they're going to stop working to their capacity. So, yeah, it's not. I feel sorry for these workers in many ways as well, because these work their hearts out, and they don't deserve, obviously, to feel like this way. They should be supported and treated like anyone else, really, to be fair, Charlie. But it's getting to them. But the thing about it as well is that they obviously want to keep doing what they're doing, their jobs and everything like that, and I can totally understand them. But if you got rid of all these people that have, these staff that have mental health problems, then you're just going to have an even worse NHS service. So, I mean, if people want to work, then they want to work, and want to work the way through it, then they absolutely should. But, it's coming at their, you could tell it's coming at their own expense as well in here. And I just feel so sorry for them in many ways, because they're the ones that have been kind of most affected as well by this crisis, as well as those ordinary patients. I just feel so sorry for them. So Keir Starmer has also written on the front page today on the Sunday Telegraph, "I will slash nonsense bureaucracy as well. It must either reform or die." So he said it as well. I mean, well-meaning reverence for the health services plight anti-reality that it must not be seen off limits for criticism. So he wants to sort of like change the management system, all that sort of thing, to make it so that it's managed a little bit better now. I would say, in many ways, I suppose it sounds a bit Tory-ish for him to say that. It almost sounds like saying, well, yeah, let's get all the private healthcare people into it and everything like that. But I don't mind him saying like reform, like the management, the structure of it. It's, and if it needs to be that they need to restructure it, then do it. But like, also you also got to put a little bit of cash into it. You've also got to put the right people in charge of it as well. I mean, there's legitimate things in the NHS that that you shouldn't probably provide. For example, these so-called diversity officers, like, is that really worth it in a health service, for example? Do the management need to be doing that sort of thing? Do they also need to be spending money telling people, how to say, I suppose this is all this transgender debate as well in the NHS as well. So, hey, what you need to refer to, what you need to refer to. Some are saying, well, the money could be going to something like more like health providers and getting beds and everything like that. Yeah, I agree. I don't, if they want their NHS staff to say to refer staff to other people to a certain amount of way, then okay, but don't have to spend money plastering as like policy and everything like that. So I suppose there's elements that really do need to sort of change as well, but it can be reformed without being privatized. And I don't want the NHS, to be privatized. I don't mind the private sector helping to provide beds to the NHS and all that sort of thing, and helping help for the private sector to provide key services. But as a long-term solution, no, that's not the way to do it. It should not be privatized. It should be, in the public hands and all that sort of thing. So it's an interesting audience that Keir Starmer was sort of going for there. I think that because he's writing in a paper that's sort of inclined to go more towards the business model, business of NHS as well. So that's interesting. Cabinet split over NHS pay, polls presidency, that's the Observer. So it looks like the government strategy on this is split in terms of pay, because obviously you've seen the nurse, obviously lots of strikes continuing as well. And the cabinet split on what the next steps to be. Some are saying, well, it should be one-off payment of so many pounds just for this year's, for this year's financial season as well. Some are saying, well, you should actually increase the actual wages, the actual increase of percentage of pay that you offer them, rather than just a one-off pay that sort of allows you to get on with it as well. There's still splits. There's no consistent position. From the union side, from what I've sort of read, Charlie, as well, is that the Royal College of Nursing have, they suggested 19% earlier on in the early negotiations, and I thought it was ludicrous. Well, not ludicrous, but I just think it was unrealistic. Because I just think they're asking for a little bit too much. They've come down to 10 now, which I think is a reasonable position. I think that's reasonable. I think the government should accept 10%, because I think that's a reasonable offer from the Royal College of Nursing. They've come down from 19%. They realise that 10% is a better position. And I agree with that thing. I think it's a good figure. I think the government should come down to Royal College of Nursing and accept their offer, because I think that's fair. I think that's honestly absolutely fair what they've offered now, rather than 90%. I think 90% was a little bit too much at first, but like 10% seems all right. But the government strategy seems to be like split, they're going to continue meeting unions, ministers, and all that sort of thing. But if someone offers 10, I don't see how that's unreasonable or anything like that. As well, Johnson for PM plot splits warning Tories. This is obviously a grassroots comeback as well. It's on side Conservative plotters have the best to restore Boris. I mean, sounds like a bit of like a fix to me. Restore Boris. I don't think the public will want that. I get that, Boris could be a little bit more popular inside the red wally areas of the Conservative, the general public. But he's not that popular at all. If anything, if sort of the rebel plotters start plotting to get back to Boris and everything like that, then kiss goodbye to Conservative winning elections ever. If you like, I know Nadine Dorries has sort of like wanted to get Boris back and everything like that with her little statements and all that sort of thing. One thing that wasn't mentioned, I don't think, in the papers at all, obviously, is that the fact that Nadine Dorries was talking about the fact that all the government priorities are going away from their 2019 manifesto. She was referencing the fact that the Channel 4 is not going to be privatised now, and that was one of her main aims as culture secretary, to get Channel 4 privatised. And she's saying that we might as well just bring back Boris if you're not going to provide policies like that. Well, I wouldn't really listen to what Nadine Dorries would want to say, quite frankly, as well on that one. But yeah, I mean, there's internal row, internal grassroots. The whole lower end of the party still love Boris Johnson for his time as Prime Minister, but yeah, I don't think it reflects the true model of the public at the moment. There's also COVID loans as well. I see still going on in the Mail, the Sunday Mail. Obviously, this is the Scottish Mail, not the the daily Scott Sunday Mail. So this is question over whether Alistair Jack received £2 million from a COVID loan, which he benefited from. That's disgraceful if that's the case, and he should be given that money back if that is the case, because that's a waste of public money, taxpayers' money, gone down the roof for VIP lanes as well, and profitable benefits. None of these people should be profiting from COVID vaccines. If they're trying to do it to get their business and all that sort of thing, it's terrible. It's terrible waste of money. It's terrible waste of taxpayers, and we're the ones that have been paying into it. It's not good enough. It's not efficient. It's not a way to treat our money, like with loans and jackpots and monopolies and VLAP lanes. It's corrupt and disgraceful. So yeah, if he turns out he's got £2 million of loans, then the Scottish Secretary should give it back. Very simple on that one. Daily Express, they go for migrants again. This is on the claim that a centre worker was a victim of sexual assault during Right Britain's latest immigration removal camp. Now, I have to say, that is a serious matter. I mean, you can slag off immigrants and what you want, but if any of them have been sexually assaulting staff, then that's disgraceful and they should be removed. Because, you can sort of, I suppose, Charlie, you can sort of separate what you think about migrants, immigration overall, with sexual assault. Because if that's the case, sexual assault has happened, and it's between a migrant and an official, then that is pretty bad. And that's awful. And whoever's done that should be locked up and put there, and whatever, because it's just you shouldn't be doing that. If you break the laws, then face the consequences. And this weekend I should mention to you, obviously Charlie's Dance on Ice is back on Sunday. I'm looking forward to watching that actually. As well, the only wraith is Essex. It's a fancy word for ghost, apparently. As well, dancing on Star Joey's mates with an annoying ghost. Is it the girl that she's dancing with? I don't know. Dancer is losing cool with a well-annoying ghost buddy who haunts his home whilst he's trying to chill out. Well, it's interesting because Joey Essex is sort of this person that doesn't really know a lot, but so I don't know if he's going to know skating or not. But he's obviously got a ghost that he doesn't know about. His mates are an annoying ghost. So who's this ghost? I want to know who the ghost is. It's not the Halloween ghost. Surely not. Oh, I don't know. It's a weird headline anyway from the start. But I think that's all of them for tomorrow, Charlie.
Yeah, we've got. I don't think we can. Yeah, I've just kept refreshing it.
Mirror's come out. So
the Mirror has come out. We've got more.
Yeah, it's another Tory donor front page. Tory donors titling 4.5 million to destroy PPE, £700,000 donation, 11 million PPE contract. Now cash to burn it. Wow. What an awful use of money. A £11 million to deliver that is now getting 4.5 million to what? That is corrupt. That put in prison. Clipper Logistics is founded by Ferrari driving Stephen Parkin, who has a jet and a helicopter. Well, that just sounds up, Tory donors as well. They've got all these properties, they've got all these fancy gadgets and everything like that. Then they got all the wealth and revenue in the world, and then they get all their private business and they benefit from COVID and everything like that, all their PPE. This is the fact that this person's even benefiting from financial money from destroying it. That is a fraud. Just that's vandalism. This is vandalism. This guy's vandalism. 4.5 million destroy PPE and he gets profits on that. I want to see one can't pay will take it away, because I just love to, I honestly, that all that money again, waste of taxpayers' money, especially that's even more of a waste when it's profiting from destroying personal equipment that many people use. honestly, that one, oh, that one annoyed me. Sorry, that was annoying me. But yeah, I think that's the last one that's just come out today.
Well, that's all the papers for this week. More will be unveiled next week during my show. Now it's time for the heroes and villains of the week. I'm going to get mine out of the way. Quite a simple pick, really, this week for the heroes and villains. My nomination for the heroes this week goes to someone who created a jigsaw puzzle. This is a professional puzzler. She completed a 500-piece pig jigsaw puzzle within 50 minutes. Meet Karen Cavett. She became a professional jigsaw puzzle competing in the jigsaw puzzle championships. She's always loved puzzles, and she turned into a hobby, into a job. After showing videos with skills over the last 5 years, the Los Angeles-based content creator has had tried her hand at creating jigsaws with a twist, such as gradient and pattern puzzles, and even completing ones with her feet. So she's even good to compete in the National Jigsaw Puzzle Championships in San Diego, California in October, where she finished in second place, even though her entire puzzle edge really fell onto the floor. She clocked a time of 50 minutes for the 500-piece puzzle while competing against 99 top puzzlers. She said,
Wow.
I was less than a minute away from winning, she said to SWNES News. It was so exciting and so validating after many hours I spent doing puzzles. During the lockdown puzzle boom, Karen decided to focus a huge channel on the hobby. And after she discovered popularity, she says, people like me get to suffer the tricky puzzles. About 202,000 subscribers she got from it. It was absolutely massive. So Karen Calvert wins my British Star this week. My Red Devil goes to, as I mentioned in one of the newspaper headlines this week, you might have seen a UK hitting, it's going to be Tehran getting the Red Devil this week for sanctions that the United Kingdom have imposed already. And now the reason, why did the sanctions come in the first place? Well, we can go through that now with you. Exactly. There was apparently Iran's chief prosecutor was sanctioned today. It was Azraeli Abikar. Foreign Secretary James Cleverly said that the prosecutor was a General Hartby, used the Iranians' death penalty. It was because he executed a dual British Iranian national on spy charges. So Iran and its prosecutor there, Mohammed Jafar Montanari, is at the heart of Italians' use of the death penalty. Tehran getting a nomination this week for the villain of the week. There, is that what you make my nominations?
Fair enough. I mean, that's much agree with that. Right, I want to sort of, let's take the good news out my one first of all. You might have not heard of this one. Grant Carson. I've just read this one, Charlie. A man who spent years helping disabled people find homes and won a £2.5 million country home in a raffle. Brilliant job by Grant Carson. Set up a 5-bedroom farmhouse, complete with 8 acres of Lake Districts, winning the draw. He's obviously disabled himself, I believe, with some form.
Yeah, we're just getting out for you right now, guys.
He's a 58-year-old. He now can get a dog, which was always wanted, but without the question, he got chronic arteritis. He had since when he was 7. As well, which is bless him. That's just that pride and that thing must have done so much, comfort and joy to him. So it's a long-term condition that causes pain, swelling, and stiffness in the joints. So in his hands and everything like that. So he can't function. His bones and everything like that, which is unfortunate.
Oh, that's horrible. I also want to give a quick shout out as well to Jenny Gow, who's recovering from a stroke after. It was a horrible news this week. Jenny Gow, the voice of BBC Radio 5 Live, she suffered a stroke this week. We wish her well for a speedy recovery. Only 45 years old as well. So it's horrible. And as you said here, this Glasgow man and Grant Carson suffering a long-term health condition for a long time. It must be difficult for him.
Yeah, so and he also, as well, from what I mean, working at a Glasgow charity for 27 years, helping disabled people with all aspects of life.
That's amazing.
He's never won anything before, but when he won this raffle, that gave him, a huge £2.5 million, a country house, he was stunned as well. And obviously, he can now afford to get a dog that has obviously helped him as well. But, he's 27
Aw.
years in the Lake District. It's a stunning job. So, George Carson is probably my hero this week. Absolutely stunning. Ones that have annoyed me this week. Obviously, the one that's gone around shooting people in London is one of them. The other one that's Andrew Bridgen. He may agree or not agree with me that he got hands in his face, Charlie. That's great to see what you think about that. But yeah, it's just the silly comparison between the Holocaust and COVID-19 vaccines is just, deservedly bye out the Conservative Party. Off the whip goes. He'll be welcoming Reclaim if he joins that lot. He'll be more than welcome because they're very good at doing what he's doing, spreading misinformation. And the other one as well, I think as well, Charlie, is the Iran again. This
Yeah,
time,
definitely this one.
that they've decided to behead the British Iranian man, Al-Zawahiri Al-Kabari. He's been sentenced to death and today got beheaded by the Iranian regime. James Cleverly had to comment on it, saying that underlines discuss our execution as well. That's resulting in sanctions on the Iran Prosecutor General, saying the hold the regime for its appalling human rights violations as well. The Iranian judiciary said that Mr. Al-Kabari had been hanged, but didn't say when the execution took place as well. I mean, the fact that in the year 2023 that you using hanging and executions of people is so out of date and is an appalling use of force and human rights, and the fact that it's also been done as well to a British national who's living in Iran is barbaric, absolutely barbaric, and it should not have happened as well. He's been tortured as well and forced to confess crimes that he did not commit, according to a BBC broadcast as well. Mr. Carp, his family have been asked to go to prison for a final visit on Wednesday, and his wife moved to solid confinement. But yeah, ridiculous. But yeah, that was it's just Iran in a nutshell, really. Taking away women's rights and then executing men as well. It's just of that and our citizens in some ways as well. So yeah, villains of the week for me: Iran, Andrew Bridgen, and the bloody good bad shooter that shot that 7-year-old and several others as well.
Yeah, well, that's all our nominations, and that rounds up tonight's show. Thank you so much for watching, everyone. We'll see you again next week for another episode of the Charlie Tolhurst Show. More straight talking discussions on the biggest news stories that matter to you. Take care, everyone. Good night.